Los Angeles Rams find a way to ultimately beat the San Francisco 49ers. Rams were favored in this game, but didn't really feel like it. Heading in, the Niners had won the last 6 straight games. Kyle Shanahan was in McVay's head. His former assistant the pupil couldn't beat the teacher no matter what. And they had Matt Stafford this year. That was supposed to be the difference. Heck, they lost to him when they could have kicked them out of the playoffs. They were still jockeying for playoff positioning at the end of the year, and they couldn't get it done then. The rematch. It's tough to beat a team 3 times during the regular season in a single year. So you get that postseason game, it's hard. It's real hard. And it's been done before, but that doesn't make it any easier. The Rams were able to overcome that and get it done. And before we start getting into the game too much, Deebo Samuel might be the best football player in the NFL. When you talk about holistically what he's able to do, he does what guys do in high school. Take your best player, put him in the backfield, run the ball with him. You flex him out, have him flex it. Heck, you toss it to him, have him throw a pass. He's unbelievable. The guy gobbles up yards, whether it's screens, whether it's passes down the field, whether it's receiving out of the backfield, whether it's running the football. There's not a whole lot that this guy can't do. He's physical. He's strong. He does it in incredibly impressive fashion. Hats off to Deebo Samuel. You saw him after the game, the tears in his eyes, the pain in his face. The guy's a competitor, straight warrior, and I have a massive amount of respect for him. And Kyle Shanahan, perfect coach for him to use him in a bunch of creative ways. But you start looking around, there's very few people in the NFL that can do everything that Deebo Samuel can do. Guy is unbelievable. Going to the game, you got Matt Stafford, obviously the belle of the ball, big-time player, throwing for 5,000 yards. Jimmy G on the other side. They're alluding to it during the game. Would he even be back? This could be his last game in the Niners uniform. Maybe, maybe not. Both of them throw balls up at the end of the game that should have been intercepted. They're throwing hand grenades out there. And somehow both of these guys, you say a rabbit's foot or a horseshoe shoved up your rear, because that's the only way that thing doesn't get intercepted. So both of them get to avoid that, don't get to be the GOAT. But Matt Stafford and the Rams down 17-10, mount this comeback down 10 points, ultimately get it done. The irony is Kyle Shanahan, I think it was the biggest comeback too, and NFC championship history, maybe championship history. And the interesting part is, Kyle Shanahan was on that team with Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, Falcons, Patriots, when they came back from 28-3. So now he's been on the receiving end of 2 massive comebacks in both the championship game and the Super Bowl. And so they're trying to run the football. They just couldn't do it. And so you tip your hat to the Rams. Raheem Morris, what they were able to do is to hold San Francisco 20 rushes, 50 yards. That was the difference in the game. When they were able to get the running game going, it's tough. It's real tough to stop that offense. They get the play action game going, the boot game going, and it allows Jimmy Garoppolo to be much more effective. Their game plan, and you know what? This goes back. Bill Belichick does it all the time. I'm going to take away what you do well, no matter what else I'm giving up. I'm going to stop the run, and I'm going to take away the limit the effectiveness of your play action, and I'm going to force it on to Jimmy Garoppolo to go beat you being a drop back passer. And he ultimately couldn't do it. Because that's not the game that they're built to play. Raheem Morris, fantastic job of being able to find a way to slow that offense down. And you did it by stopping the run. And the Rams, while they didn't run the ball all that well, 29 of he rushes 70 yards, they stuck with it enough so that their play action worked a decent amount. And it took some heat off Matt Stafford and slowed down that vaunted defensive line. It was like Nick Bosa was back there all game long. They did a good job of slowing him down, of chips, hanging tight ends, getting the ball out quick. Stafford did get pressured a little bit, but both of these coaches knew that you got Aaron Donald, you got Von Miller, you got Floyd. You look over at San Francisco, you got Nick Bosa in the bunch. I mean, they're a good pass rushing teams on both sides of this. They had good defensive lines, and neither offensive coach was going to let the opposition beat them that way. Massive respect. They had respect for it. They were getting the ball out quick, and they weren't ultimately going to lose by their quarterbacks just getting beat up. They were too smart for that. Last time I'll finish with this on this game. Jimmy G is going to take a lot of heat for that interception at the end of the game. It's 3rd and 13. He's running around. If he takes a sack, it's 4th and 20 something. They have one timeout. There's a minute left. It's ill-advised. He shouldn't have done it, but that's not ultimately what cost him the game. The Niners couldn't run the ball, and their limited effectiveness on the ground pushed it back on him. And this has proven to us that you need a big-time quarterback, because that's how the Rams looked with Jared Goff in the past. When you had to ultimately push it back to him, he couldn't get it done. And you look at Matt Stafford on that final drive, threading that slant to Cooper Kupp, putting it right where it needed to be. Pressure in his face, drifts back, boom, hits it. Cooper Kupp catches it, catch and run, 15, 20 yards, explosive gain. That's what Matt Stafford gives you that they weren't getting before with Cooper Kupp. And so you look at this, Pat Mahomes, elite. Joe Burrow, he's on his way. We're putting him in that elite conversation. Matt Stafford, he's there too. Pat Mahomes, all these guys. The one guy who really isn't is Jimmy Garoppolo. And he can get you there and you can win. But as I talked before in previous episodes, your pathway to success is so much tighter when you have a quarterback that you can't just hand the ball to down 10 and say, go win it for us. Go make this up. Joe Burrow was able to do that. Matt Stafford was able to do that. And that's the advantage of having that guy. And so all these teams, 9 coaching vacancies at one point this year, they're starting to get filled up. That's the difference. They're trying to find that guy, and they're trying to find that coaching staff to help get the most out of them. And then you got to find that big play receiver. We'll start getting into all that as it comes down to the construction of these teams and what you need now to win in the NFL